Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Victoria lounged on the bed, flipping through a fashion magazine with casual interest. Her husband, Chris, paced nervously nearby, stealing furtive glances at the closet. You know, if you keep wearing a path in the carpet like that, we'll have to replace it, Victoria teased, not looking up from her magazine. Chris stopped abruptly, a flush creeping up his neck. I'm not sure about this, Vic. Setting aside the glossy pages, Victoria sat up and fixed her husband with a gentle smile. Hey, it's just us here. No judgment, remember? We talked about this. I know. Chris ran a hand through his hair, mussing the short brown strands. It's just, what if I look ridiculous? Victoria stood and crossed the room, placing her hands on Chris's shoulders. Then we'll laugh about it together and try something else. This is about exploration, babe. No pressure. Chris took a deep breath, his tension visibly easing under his wife's touch. You're right. Okay, let's do this. With a playful grin, Victoria spun around and flung open the closet doors. Inside hung an array of feminine clothing, silky blouses, flowing skirts, and a few dresses in various styles. On the floor sat several shoeboxes containing heels of different heights. Where should we start? Victoria mused, tapping a finger against her chin. How about something simple? A nice blouse and skirt combo? Chris nodded, his earlier nervousness replaced by a spark of excitement in his eyes. That sounds good, but, how do I… Victoria chuckled, pulling out a pale blue blouse and a knee-length black skirt. Here, I'll help you. Arms up. As Victoria helped Chris into the outfit, guiding him through the unfamiliar fastenings and adjustments, their laughter filled the room. Chris stumbled a bit in the skirt, unused to the way it restricted his legs. Whoa, how do you walk in these things? He asked, taking a few experimental steps. Practice, darling. Lots and lots of practice. Victoria's eyes twinkled with amusement. Now, for the finishing touch. She rummaged in a drawer, producing a small makeup bag. Chris's eyes widened. Makeup, too? Just a little, Victoria assured him. Nothing too dramatic for your first time. Here, sit down. Chris perched on the edge of the bed as Victoria worked, applying a light foundation, a touch of blush, and a hint of eyeshadow. As she finished with a swipe of tinted lip gloss, she stepped back to admire her handiwork. Well, how do I look? Chris asked, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension in his voice. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. The transformation was subtle but striking. The blouse accentuated Chris's lean torso, while the skirt gave him a softer silhouette. The light makeup enhanced his features, bringing out the warmth in his brown eyes. You look beautiful, Victoria breathed. See for yourself. She led Chris to the full-length mirror on the closet door. He gasped softly as he took in his reflection, turning this way and that to see himself from different angles. I can't believe it, he murmured. It's still me, but different. Victoria wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. Different can be good. How does it feel? Chris considered for a moment. Strange, he admitted, but not in a bad way. The fabric feels nice against my skin, and seeing myself like this, it's exciting. I'm glad, Victoria said, pressing a kiss to his cheek. Want to try walking around a bit more? Maybe we could have a little fashion show. Chris laughed, the sound lighter and more carefree than before. Why not? But fair warning, I might topple over in these heels. I'll catch you, Victoria promised with a wink. For the next hour, they played dress-up like kids, trying on different outfits and poses. Victoria showed Chris how to walk with more grace in heels, and they both dissolved into giggles when he attempted to strut down an imaginary catwalk. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the windows, Chris flopped onto the bed in a swirl of fabric. He was wearing a floral sundress now, his face flushed with exertion and joy. That was incredible, he said, catching his breath. I never imagined it could feel like this. Victoria lay down beside him, propping herself up on one elbow. Like what? Chris struggled to find the words. Free, I guess. Like I'm discovering a whole new side of myself. And the fact that I can share it with you, it means everything. Victoria's heart swelled with love and pride. I'm honored you trust me with this part of yourself. And I have to say, seeing you so happy and confident is incredibly attractive. A mischievous glint appeared in Chris's eyes. Oh, really? Well then, maybe we should explore that a bit more. He leaned in for a kiss, and Victoria met him halfway, savoring the sweet taste of lip gloss on his lips. As they embraced, the boundaries between masculinity and femininity blurred, leaving only love and acceptance in their wake. The next morning, Victoria woke to find Chris already up, sitting at her vanity and experimenting with different eyeshadow colors. She watched him silently for a moment, marveling at how natural he looked, how at ease in his own skin. Morning, beautiful, she said softly, not wanting to startle him. Chris turned, a warm smile lighting up his face. Good morning. I hope you don't mind, I was just playing around a bit. Not at all, Victoria assured him, sitting up and stretching. In fact, I was thinking, how would you feel about going out today? Chris's hand, holding an eyeshadow brush, froze midair. Out? You mean, like this? Victoria nodded. If you're comfortable with it, we could start small, maybe just a walk in the park, or we could do something fun and feminine, like getting manicures together. Chris bit his lip, considering. I don't know, Vic. What if someone recognizes me? Then they recognize you, Victoria said with a shrug. We don't owe anyone an explanation, but if you're not ready, we don't have to. This is all about what makes you comfortable. Chris was quiet for a long moment, absently swirling the makeup brush in his hand. Finally, he took a deep breath and met Victoria's gaze in the mirror. Let's do it, but maybe we could go somewhere a little farther from home, just in case. Victoria beamed, pride and excitement bubbling up inside her. Of course! I know just the place. There's a cute little spa about an hour away that does amazing mani-pedis. We could make a day of it, maybe do some shopping afterward. The nervousness in Chris's expression gave way to enthusiasm. That sounds perfect, but, I might need some help getting ready. I don't think I've quite mastered the art of matching yet. Laughing, Victoria climbed out of bed and joined Chris at the vanity. Don't worry, I've got you covered. Let's make you fabulous. They spent the next hour getting ready, Victoria guiding Chris through the finer points of coordinating an outfit and applying makeup. They settled on a casual but feminine look, a flowy peasant top, skinny jeans, and low heels, with natural-looking makeup that enhanced Chris's features without being too bold. As they stood side by side in the mirror, Victoria couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. Chris stood taller, his posture more confident, a soft smile playing on his lips. You ready for this? She asked, squeezing his hand. Chris took a deep breath and nodded. As I'll ever be. Let's go before I lose my nerve. The drive to the spa was filled with a mixture of excited chatter and comfortable silences. Victoria kept sneaking glances at Chris, admiring the way the sunlight played off his glossy lips and the gentle sway of his longer, clip-in hair extensions. As they pulled into the spa parking lot, Chris's grip on the door handle tightened. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, he muttered, his earlier confidence wavering. Victoria turned off the engine and turned to face him. Hey, look at me. You've got this. You look amazing and we're going to have a wonderful time. But if at any point you feel uncomfortable, just say the word and we'll leave. Okay? Chris met her gaze, drawing strength from her unwavering support. Okay, you're right. Let's do this. They walked into the spa hand in hand, Victoria leading the way to the reception desk. The young woman behind the counter greeted them with a warm smile. Welcome to Serenity Spa. Do you have an appointment? Yes, under Victoria Thompson. We're here for the couple's mani-pedi package, Victoria replied smoothly. The receptionist tapped at her computer. Ah, yes, I see it here. Right this way, ladies. Chris tensed slightly at being addressed as a woman, but Victoria gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. As they followed the receptionist to the pedicure chairs, Chris began to relax, taking in the soothing ambiance of the spa. "First time here?" the receptionist asked as they settled into the plush chairs. Victoria nodded. "Yes, we thought we'd treat ourselves to a little pampering." "Well, you've come to the right place," the young woman said with a wink. "Our technicians will be with you shortly. Enjoy." As they soaked their feet in the warm, bubbling water, Chris leaned over to Victoria. "This feels incredible," he whispered. "I can't believe I've been missing out on this all these years." Victoria laughed. "Just wait until they start the massage. You'll be in heaven." True to her word, Chris was soon melting into his chair as the technician worked out the tension in his calves and feet. Victoria watched him with amusement, enjoying the blissful expression on his face. "So, what color are you thinking for your nails?" Victoria asked as they flipped through the polish options. Chris hesitated, his fingers hovering over a bold red before moving to a more subdued nude shade. "Maybe something neutral? I don't want to draw too much attention." Victoria nodded, understanding. "That's a good choice, classy and versatile." As the technicians worked on their nails, Chris and Victoria fell into easy conversation, discussing everything from work to their plans for the weekend. Chris grew more animated as time went on, his earlier nervousness all but forgotten. "I was thinking," he said as the technician applied a final coat of clear polish to his toes, "maybe we could check out that new boutique we passed on the way here. I saw a dress in the window that looked interesting." Victoria's heart soared at his enthusiasm. "Absolutely. We could make it a whole shopping spree if you want." Chris grinned, wiggling his freshly painted toes. "I think I'd like that." As they left the spa, both sporting perfectly manicured nails and feeling thoroughly relaxed, Victoria noticed a spring in Chris's step that hadn't been there before. He walked with more confidence, his hips swaying slightly in a natural feminine gait. The boutique was quiet when they entered, soft music playing in the background. An attendant approached them with a friendly smile. "Welcome. Can I help you ladies find anything today?" Chris hesitated for just a moment before finding his voice. "Yes, actually. I was admiring the dress in the window display. Could I possibly try it on?" "Of course. Right this way. I'll grab it for you in just a moment. Any particular size you're looking for?" As Chris and the attendant discussed sizing, Victoria hung back, watching with pride as her husband navigated this new territory with growing assurance. She browsed the racks nearby, picking out a few additional items she thought might suit Chris. In the dressing room, Chris emerged in the dress from the window, a lovely wrap style in a deep emerald green that complemented his coloring beautifully. He twirled for Victoria, the skirt flaring out around his legs. "What do you think?" he asked, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. "You look stunning," she said honestly. "That color is perfect on you?" Chris beamed, smoothing his hands over the fabric. "It feels amazing. I've never worn anything quite like it." "Well then, we simply must get it," Victoria declared. "And maybe a few other things to go with it." They spent the next hour trying on various outfits, Chris growing bolder with each selection. By the time they left the boutique laden with shopping bags, Chris was practically glowing with happiness. As they walked back to the car, Chris suddenly stopped, pulling Victoria into a tight hug. "Thank you," he whispered fiercely. "For everything, for accepting me, for encouraging me, for loving all of me." Victoria held him close, her heart full to bursting. "Always," she promised. "You never have to thank me for that." They drove home in comfortable silence, hands intertwined on the center console. As they pulled into their driveway, Chris turned to Victoria with a mischievous grin. "So, want to help me try on all our new purchases again?" Victoria laughed, leaning in for a quick kiss. "I thought you'd never ask." One lazy Sunday afternoon, as Chris lounged on the couch in a flowy sundress, painting his toenails a vibrant coral, he looked up at Victoria with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking." he said, carefully applying another stroke of polish. Maybe it's time to tell someone else about this. Victoria set aside the book she'd been reading, giving Chris her full attention. Oh? Who did you have in mind? Chris bit his lip, concentrating on his task for a moment before responding. I was thinking maybe my sister, Emma. We've always been close, and I think she'd understand. Plus, it might be nice to have someone else to talk to about all this. Victoria nodded, a warm smile spreading across her face. I think that's a wonderful idea. Emma's always been supportive of you. Do you want me there when you tell her? Would you mind? Chris asked, relief evident in his voice. I mean, I know I should probably do it myself, but having you there would make me feel more confident. Of course, Victoria assured him, reaching out to squeeze his hand. Whatever you need, I'm here. They decided to invite Emma over for dinner the following weekend. As the day approached, Chris grew increasingly nervous, second-guessing his decision more than once. But Victoria remained a steadfast source of support, reminding him of how far he'd come and how proud she was of his courage. The evening of Emma's visit arrived, and Chris paced the living room, alternating between adjusting his outfit, a simple blouse and skirt combo, and running his hands through his hair. What if she freaks out? He fretted. What if she tells Mom and Dad? Victoria caught his hands in hers, forcing him to stand still. Hey, breathe. Remember, Emma loves you. Even if she's surprised at first, she'll come around. And we both know she'd never out you to anyone without your permission. Chris took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. You're right. I know you're right. The doorbell rang, cutting off his words. Chris froze, panic flashing across his face. I've got it, Victoria said softly. Take a moment to center yourself. Come out when you're ready. She answered the door, greeting Emma with a warm hug. As they chatted in the entryway, Victoria could hear Chris moving around in the living room, gathering his courage. Finally, he appeared in the doorway. Emma's eyes widened in surprise, her gaze taking in Chris's feminine attire and carefully applied makeup. Chris? She asked, her voice a mix of confusion and concern. What's going on? Chris swallowed hard, his hands fidgeting with the hem of his skirt. Hey, I have something I need to tell you. Over dinner, Chris explained his journey of self-discovery, with Victoria offering supportive comments and clarifications. Emma listened intently, her initial shock giving way to understanding, and then, to Chris's immense relief, acceptance. I'll admit this is a lot to take in, Emma said as they finished their meal. But Chris, you're my brother, or sister if that's what you prefer. And I love you no matter what. I'm just glad you felt you could share this with me. Tears welled up in Chris's eyes, and he reached across the table to squeeze Emma's hand. Thank you, he whispered. That means more than you know. As the evening wore on, the initial awkwardness faded, replaced by laughter and easy conversation. Emma even convinced Chris to give her a mini makeup tutorial, the two of them giggling like teenagers as they experimented with different eyeshadow looks. When Emma left that night, she hugged Chris tightly. I'm proud of you, she murmured, and I'm here if you ever need to talk. After she'd gone, Chris collapsed onto the couch, emotionally drained but radiating happiness. I can't believe how well that went, he said, shaking his head in wonder. Victoria curled up next to him, resting her head on his shoulder. I can. You're amazing, and anyone who truly knows you can see that, no matter how you choose to express yourself. Chris turned to face her, cupping her cheek in his hand. I couldn't have done any of this without you, you know. Your love and support. It's everything. Well, get used to it, Victoria teased, leaning in for a kiss. Because you're stuck with me and my unconditional support for life. As they sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, Chris felt a sense of peace settle over him. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, telling his parents, navigating the outside world, but with Victoria by his side, he felt ready to face anything. The following months brought a flurry of changes. Chris began seeing a therapist who specialized in gender identity issues, working through his feelings and exploring what his newfound self-expression meant for his future. He started going by Christine when presenting as female, though he still used Chris and male pronouns in his day-to-day life. Victoria stood by him through it all, offering unwavering support and love. She accompanied him to therapy sessions when asked, helped him build a more extensive wardrobe, and even started a small support group for partners of gender non-conforming individuals. One crisp autumn evening, as they strolled hand in hand through a local park, Christine in a stylish sweater dress and boots, Chris broached a subject that had been on his mind for weeks. "I've been thinking about going public," he said, his voice a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Not necessarily transitioning fully, but being open about this part of myself. Maybe even going to work as Christine sometimes." Victoria squeezed his hand encouragingly. "That's a big step. How do you feel about it?" Chris took a moment to consider, watching a group of children playing nearby. "Scared," he admitted. "But also ready, I think. I'm tired of hiding this part of myself. And seeing how accepting Emma and our close friends have been, it makes me hopeful that others might understand too." "Whatever you decide, I'm with you all the way," Victoria assured him. "Have you thought about how you want to approach it at work?" They spent the rest of their walk discussing strategies, weighing the pros and cons of different approaches. By the time they returned home, they had the beginnings of a plan in place. Over the next few weeks, Chris worked closely with his company's HR department to develop a coming-out strategy. To his relief, they were supportive and eager to help create a welcoming environment. The day finally arrived for Chris to go to work as Christine for the first time. Victoria helped her get ready, both of them fighting back tears of nervous excitement. "You've got this," Victoria said, straightening Christine's blazer one last time. "Just remember, you're the same talented, hardworking person you've always been. The only difference is now you're being true to yourself." Christine nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "Thank you for everything. I love you." "I love you too," Victoria replied, pulling her in for a quick kiss. "Now go show them how amazing you are." As Christine walked into her office building, head held high despite the butterflies in her stomach, she felt a sense of freedom she'd never experienced before. There were curious glances and a few double takes, but also warm smiles and words of support from colleagues who'd been briefed beforehand. By the end of the day, Christine was exhausted but elated. She'd faced her fears and come out the other side stronger. As she walked to her car, she pulled out her phone to call Victoria. "Hey, beautiful," Victoria answered. "How did it go?" Christine couldn't keep the smile out of her voice as she replied, "It was incredible. I feel like I can finally breathe, like I'm fully myself for the first time in my life." "I'm so proud of you," Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. "How about we celebrate tonight? Dinner at that new restaurant you've been wanting to try?" "That sounds perfect," Christine agreed. "I'll be home soon. I love you." "I love you too," Victoria replied. "Always." Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.